Cigar Club family, welcome back to the Cigar Club podcast. It's Tuesday, baby. Joined by the one and only David Pugh. Pugh, I did not like doing that podcast by myself last week, and I don't want to do it again.
I felt for you. I think you handled it brilliantly. Great
Talking
questions.
to myself for 45 minutes.
Well, no, you were talking to the questions, and we had some great questions. I love those type of Q&A sessions. Really get to bring the audience into the podcast with us and answer some of their burning questions. But you handled it well. It was a good time off, but it is good to be back.
Yeah. So Pugh, he pieces out for a week and leaves us to fend for ourselves, which is never pretty. But yes, everyone's very excited to have Pugh back in the office, and things feel orderly again. And yeah, he also surprised us with, if you guys haven't seen it yet, you can go back and watch this past Friday's FA4 Griffin Dave show, where we did a blind whiskey tasting. Me versus Griff. You can tune in to see who wins. I'm 2-0 up until this point. So am I 2-1 or am I 3-0? You'll have to watch to find out. But I said it on the show. I said it in the clip on Instagram where I spilled everything all over the place. That was my favorite whiskey tasting I've ever done, period. It was, I don't know what your thought process behind it was, but everything tasted the best. And I've had all three of those bottles, granted 2 were single barrels, but the order they were in didn't feel like I'm going to trick you order. It felt like the right order to experience the flavors in the best way.
Yeah, I like this kind of behind the curtain for that episode, because that was a fun one.
This wasn't on the plan, but it's it's fresh in my head.
Perfect. I went into it wanting to start off, common's not the right word, but like a batched bourbon that is going to be pretty consistent, anytime you go buy it. And so that's what I wanted to start off with. I wasn't concerned too much about proofing and trying to, making sure that nothing was too hot in the beginning, or to, start off with something that was lower proof. I wasn't concerned about that because I thought all of the bourbons themselves were going to be able to hold up against each other. And then I wanted to move in after. So really it was starting off with something that is going to be pretty consistent batch to batch. And I guess I can name everything. Well, no, I'll hold off. If you haven't watched it yet, I won't give away any spoilers. And then I moved into single barrels, so things that were going to be different from batch to batch. And both of those single barrels were older, probably around 2016, 2017. And I think we're starting to see sort of a decline in how good some of the single barrels are, which is why I think those 2 and 3 were a little different and better than what you've experienced before. But that was kind of my thought process of it. And then they're just some of my favorite bourbons. And so it was just a really easy decision of which ones I went into for the first. I mean, there's a lot in there, but I wanted to bring the heat, bring something unique, and kind of show, for y'all at least, the difference that a single barrel can make. Because I imagine you had at least some of those before.
And and one of them in there is like a staple for me, which is why I was so mad at myself for potentially not getting it. You'll have to watch to find out. But anyway, they're so good. I had saved half the bottle of each one. As soon as I always pour half, and then sometimes I'll end up drinking the whole thing. But these were so good, I was like, no, I want to be able to do this again. So I'm just going to do half pours. So for the podcast today, I'm drinking sample number 2 and what I have left of it.
And if you want to know what it is, and you haven't watched the Fridays at 4, go watch the video. You can find out what he's drinking. I'll try not to give it away during this episode. It'll be hard not to.
We'll have to figure out a way to do some type of interactive talk-throughs of maybe a blind or something like that on the podcast as well, where we can really dive into maybe if we do a blind that is 3 single barrels from the same bourbon, like 3 Buffalo Trace picks. And we sit and we assess and we talk about them and how it happens, or we grab a couple cigars to do a blind with that are very similar blends, but maybe they're line extensions or their wrapper changes. La Hacienda and First Growth come to mind because it's supposed to achieve the same blend core with a stronger profile with the new one. So anyway, it's a lot of cool stuff I think we can bring to the podcast with blinds and just tasting experiences every single week. But today on the podcast, we are talking Cigar Lounge Etiquette. What? We don't have Cigar Lounge, Pugh.
We don't. But I think this is one of those things that often can scare away new smokers, or maybe not even new smokers, but cigar smokers that haven't been to a lounge or maybe are going to a new lounge. I know anytime I travel, I seek out a lounge.
Yep.
And whether that be to sit down and enjoy some cigars or just kind of support a local brick and mortar, see what they have. You know, I'm very limited to what I have here in Opelika. You know, the cigar culture isn't huge, but if I'm out and about walking past my local brick and mortar, I'll pop in and just support them. You know, pick up a stick that I haven't had before, or maybe it's one that I want an extra of. So I wanted to do this episode and kind of demystify and maybe take away someone who's been hesitant about going into their local lounge because, you know, a lot of lounges have a consistent crew that's there daily.
Yep.
That it can be very intimidating to walk into, as everyone knows each other, sort of that Cheers atmosphere, and you're the new guy walking into Cheers, and everyone's sitting there talking to each other. So wanted to kind of break that scariness.
Which, you know, it's kind of a catch-22 because you want to build a lounge culture, and you want to, well, I should say it this way because I've never launched a cigar lounge. I love being a part of different cigar lounges where I walk in and know everybody, and there's that like camaraderie, almost fraternity-esque feel to it. It's like going, like, intentionally going to the same restaurant every single week on the same day so that you can get to know the waiter or the bartender, and you sit down and they know what you want right away. There's like, you want that in life because you feel like you're part of something.
Exactly.
But then you can do that to an extent where you alienate people. And I think we'll get into this. I haven't even read the article we're going to kind of go through and talk through because I kind of wanted to just read them line by line and react as I naturally would. But before we dive into that, I do want to call out a week and a half ago when I was in Pittsburgh. And if you, again, another tie back to FA4, so you guys have heard this if you watched that as well, but was at a cigar lounge called the Smokestack. And it was unlike anything I had ever experienced, where it was both a fraternity of men, women, black people, white people, Hispanic people, Asian, like every type of person. Mm-hmm. But it was also, I walked in as never being there and immediately felt welcomed. Immediately was brought into a conversation. Hey, how's it going? What do you do? Why are you here? What do you smoke? What do you eat? What do you drink? And it was like, wow, this place is the greatest environment I've ever been in. So fell in love with that place, got to chat with the owner who's got a really cool farm to table restaurant next door as well. Just this really cool story. And we just locked it in. So everybody, before we dive into this, mark your freaking calendars. Pugh, I'm working on getting a lot more than just me at this, so stand by. But November 7th in Pittsburgh, we're doing the first ever Cigar Club event in person to release the new limited edition Pinkies Out exclusive cigar that we do with Alec and Bradley. The event's going to be called Pinkies and Stinkies. We'll have stinky ashtrays that are going to be powder coated a custom color to match the Pinky cigar. And it's going to be tailgate themed, 1 o'clock to 5 p.m. in Pittsburgh, Sunday, November 7th. We'll be there. It'll be the first time you can buy Pinkies Out before we even release them online, about 3 to 4 weeks before. And you'll get entered to win some different really cool raffles and get to hang out with our team here, meet the people at Smokestack. I'm really excited about it. So mark your calendars. We'll send out an email to RSVP, but it's going to be a lot of fun. So brick and mortar cigar shops are top of mind for us here at Cigar Club. So why not dive in and discuss that etiquette and maybe what we love about cigar shops and what kind of leaves a bad taste in our mouth about cigar shops. Kick us off, David Pugh.
Well, I'm going to actually kick us off with what I'm smoking. Waiting for it.
That's my bad.
Today,
that is my bad. I'm used to doing this podcast by myself.
Yeah, well, one episode, and now he's by himself. Today we went with, first and foremost...
What is that? Oh.
It is incredibly hot out here. I am dying. I had to move my normal position, but I was like, hey, I'm not going to do a podcast and not smoke a cigar. So the things that we do, real struggle, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
this is beyond first world problems.
Exactly. I chose this cigar specifically because I went to a event at my local brick and mortar, and it was a Caldwell event, and I purchased this there. I think this was actually, it was like buy 3, get 1 or something like that. So I am smoking the Long Live the King. My style is jalapeno. Jalapeno. Jalapeno.
That cigar.
It's
Go ahead.
I was going to say, it's pretty much a Corojo Puro, pretty much. Corojo Dominican wrapper, Dominican Corojo binder. Dominican Nicaraguan filler coming in at 7.25 by 40. Great. The initial cold draw on this was just pure citrus. It was wonderful.
I remember the first time I ever saw that cigar, maybe it must have been in 2013. And back then I was only smoking like Rocky Patel Decade and Monte Cristo Whites. And I went in there with my cousin. Went to Cigar Lounge with my cousin. We walk in. He's like, "Oh my God, they have my stylus jalapeno." I'm like, "What?" He's like, "No, long live the king. It's this line from this Caldwell guy in Miami, blah, blah, blah." It was my first introduction to boutique cigars ever.
Ooh, okay.
That I didn't smoke it that day. I probably smoked a Rocky. But that was the first time I understood that there was more than legacy brands that made cigars. And I remember seeing that band going, holy crap, this is really cool. And the name, I'm obsessed with it.
Yep. It's so great. They always come out. The Caldwell Drew Estate All Out Kings line, my favorite from
cigar.
that was Give Me Your Lunch Money. Like,
yep.
How do you come up with a name like that for,
I've had that one
here's a Corona Gorda or a Toro. Oh, but give me your lunch money. Love it. They're great. Absolutely love everything. I don't think I've actually smoked. I've had Long Live the King, but I don't think I've smoked my style is jalapeno.
Oh, so this is your first time smoking this one?
I think.
Okay, even if you think you haven't smoked it in recent memory.
No,
that size.
Absolutely.
So it might as well be your first time. Excited to hear your thoughts as we go through this. Please keep us updated.
Let's jump into it. Absolutely. Well, let's jump into this article.
I'm
going to start off at the top. Do not smell or lick a cigar. Don't be that guy walking around a shop smelling cigars that other customers may purchase.
Come on, man.
Yeah, that's a great come on, man. Yeah, that's a big no-no. There's nothing more off-putting than being in a humidor next to someone who's just rubbing. Oh, that hurt. Don't do that lip.
Oh, God.
It's just
you went
rubbing
all
their
in on
nose. Oh, the wrap. Don't hold back.
Yeah, you don't hold back.
All in on the and I fortunately have never seen anyone stick a cigar in their mouth and then put it back in the box. I'm pretty sure I would tell them, "Hey, please exit. I don't work here, but please leave.
Please take that and every other cigar that touched and leave."
Exactly.
No,
but I have seen some stanky noses underneath some cigars, even through cello. Which I'm like,
that's my favorite. Is when somebody picks up a cigar in cello and they go, "Oh yeah, this is a good one." Please tell me what you know that I don't know, because how did you decide that was a good cigar based on smelling it with the cellophane still around the cigar? Don't be that guy or girl.
Yeah, don't be that consumer. I think a lot of it has to do, or at least I guess a lot of it has to do with like people used to smelling their cigars before they smoke them. And so it's just, I'd like to think at least that it's not intentional, that it's just a bad habit or a habit that it's a muscle memory. Have a cigar in your hand, you smell it.
Yeah,
I'd like to think that no one is going, put this back. It smelled like, whatever. But I've seen that before, and I certainly avoid those boxes of cigars.
Yeah, and the other thing is not only should you obviously not lick the cigar when you're in the humidor trying to decide, like that's going to decipher if you're getting it or not because of how the cap and the glue tastes. But beyond that, when you go to cut your cigar, I think it's first of all, I always wet my cigar before I cut it because I don't like the pieces to go everywhere for it to unravel. But I'm not using somebody else's cutter or a community cutter. If you're using someone else's cutter, or if you're using a community cigar lounge cutter, wetting it before you cut it is disgusting.
I completely agree. And once again, I think that's one that I have to assume it's never malicious or intentional, that it's just a habit that people have, and it's muscle memory. Lick the cigar, then, or wet the cigar and then cut it. But I have seen some slobbery people and then go in that community
that guillotine cutter. What that thing is seen.
The table, yeah. And that's one I'm like, I go over to the lounge owner and be like, "Hey, yeah, we may want to just wipe that down real quick."
Based on what I've witnessed here, if we could wipe that down, we would greatly appreciate it.
Yeah.
I thought this one was interesting Never blow smoke in someone's face. Why would you do that anyway?
Right?
Are we at a hookah lounge? At a hookah lounge, that's what you do, right? In college, you're like blowing O's different. And you're kind of like dousing your friend with smoke to make him look like a dragon. Sure. But really?
This is one that I've never seen. And at least I like to think that this isn't a problem and they just needed to get another one on this list. But the only thing that I could think of is if, you're sitting on the couch at your local lounge and you're right on top of someone, it's packed. Don't, look over and blow in their face. Normally if I'm in a lounge, I'll blow up or blow down. And just try to direct it away from myself. Usually it's to avoid, it being cloudy in front of the conversation, right? If I'm sitting if I'm in a lounge, I'm talking to someone. It doesn't, unless it's empty, and then I'm talking to myself. So I'll blow it up or blow it down to keep it out of the conversation. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
But I don't think I would have a hard time someone's leaning over and blowing into a stranger's face or something.
I've never really seen it. That doesn't mean it hasn't happened. I'm sure somebody listening is like, no, I know that guy. I know that girl that does that. But it's like, for me, I'm always conscious of that. I could be inside or outside. Mm-hmm. I'm always like, okay, which way is the wind pattern going? Because even inside, there's a wind pattern. There's a fan. There's an AC unit somewhere. I'm like, how do I make sure this is not like, especially when you're around people who don't smoke. It's like,
yes,
people who are okay with you smoking around them and they don't smoke, don't take it for granted and just like think that they're enjoying every time their face is like coated in your cigar smoke. So it's something I'm always mindful of because I enjoy smoking at a lot of like friends' houses, like barbecues and all these events, whatever. Everybody knows I always bring cigars. I always smoke them. People there that smoke know I'm bringing cigars. But it's like, I'm not trying to be like next to the baby smoking a cigar and like, you know, it's just being mindful for people.
Yeah, that's one I'm overly conscious of when I'm smoking cigars. Like, I don't smoke at restaurants. Not that I don't know if you can smoke at restaurants anymore, or outside of restaurants. But or like we'll be outdoor doing like a scenic walk at like downtown Columbus, Georgia, or something like that, and I'm hesitant to even light up a cigar because I don't want my enjoyment of something to ruin someone else's enjoyment, right?
Correct. And
so that's my biggest, like, constantly considering or worrying about other people's enjoyment of the space that we're in, whether that be a friend sitting at a table with us or, you know, being in a public space where I don't know anyone. I'm always making sure the wind's blowing. If it's blowing into someone, hey, you know, are you okay with this? Can we switch? I can move, whatever.
Definitely. Yeah.
Think about your neighbors.
Think it, and in life too, people think about your neighbors. You know, just be a good person. Hey, how about this, Pugh? Don't smash out your cigar in an ashtray. Now, this has got to be a hot one because I didn't really know about this until recently. That it's very frowned upon to like out it.
Don't. Yeah, there's also, I think, maybe I don't remember everything, but also like if you're ashing your cigar, you roll it, don't tap it. That's another one. I think.
Yes. Which
I agree with the first one.
If you're at the Davidoff Lounge, roll, don't tap.
Exactly. I think rolling your ash as opposed to tapping it may come from gentlemen's clubs of the 30s and 40s where it was, you know, specific highfalutin people only smoking cigars, although everyone smokes cigars, but maybe being in a particular environment, you just had a higher class of people. And so it was maybe foreseen as being better etiquette or more sophisticated to roll your ash. So I think you can tap your ash. I mean, I'm not going to make it look like I'm not over here, you know, flicking it or anything like that. I'm gentle with it so it doesn't go everywhere. And maybe that's part of it as well. But as far as I do agree with don't stamp out your cigar.
Yeah. And I think you made a good point there with it's the reason for the roll against the tap should be more about the situation you're in and not getting ash everywhere and being mindful. Mm-hmm. If I'm on a walk with a cigar or I'm outside, I'm flicking the cigar and the ash is coming off. Personally.
Yeah.
It doesn't change anything about the cigar and it's all going on the concrete anyway. If I'm in the office and I'm smoking a cigar and I don't want ash everywhere, I'm like going to roll it or like gently tap it. Just being courteous about your surroundings, not making a mess of the place
keeping
that you're
your
in.
Clean.
For sure. And then I've heard that when you out a cigar by like, you know, pushing down on the burnt end into the ashtray really hard and twisting it back and forth, that can cause like weird aromas to come, like super bitter aromas to come from. I don't know if that's fully true. I kind of want to test it. But
yeah,
you can agree or disagree on this one. I'm kind of like 50-50 on this. I'm like, I don't know. Don't make a mess and be a good person, and a lot of this is alleviated.
Yeah. For me, I don't like, and I'm guilty of it, I like letting the cigar just burn out on its own. Specifically because of the difficulty and the amount of labor that went into working it. To me, it almost feels not disrespectful, but maybe honoring it. I don't know, but it just feels like a better thing to do now. However, if I'm in a place without an ashtray and I've got, a can of soda, a can of beer, you best believe I'm shoving that bad boy in there and making a damn mess. But that's also just because I don't have, it's the only solution that I have. But I've snuffed many a cigars out in a can before, and it does feel bad because the wrapper breaks and it all looks just terrible. But sometimes you got to do. But if I have an ashtray, I'm just going to let it die out.
You would not like to see the behind the scenes on a coffee review. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh, I bet they end up in the coffee if you're not finishing said coffee.
Oh, man. Classic. Hey, I want to know what you guys think about this one. Also, if there's one of these that you have seen that we're claiming we've never seen, drop it in the comments below on YouTube's, if that's where you're listening to us.
And if you have one that we don't cover that you think is a good one, please let us know about it. All right, move into the next one.
Let's do it.
Another hot topic one. Do not let your ash spill over. Unless you're participating in a long ash contest, you should always respect your cigar lounge and be cautious of spilling ash on the floor or furniture.
Yeah, I could see it.
I can see it. Especially furniture. Like if you're sitting on a couch like a lot of lounges have and not at a table, no one wants a burnt spot on their leather couch.
So far, I'm going to say it again. We're going back to be a mindful human being.
Be courteous. Yep.
If you're in your backyard and you're like, I'm pumped on this cigar. Look at this ash. It's crazy. I'm going to see how long I can go. It's your clothes. It's your back deck. Take it down to the nub, and if it falls everywhere, you got to clean it up. If you're in a cigar lounge or you're wherever you are, where you're smoking a cigar and it's not your place and it's not just like an outdoor free-for-all, maybe be cautious of running your cigar 2.5, 3 inches of an ash, knowing at any moment the wrong gust of wind, that thing's going everywhere.
Yep.
Right?
I love keeping on an ash. I'll be the first to admit it. And I will be the first to admit that at a lounge, sometimes I'm keeping that ash on there. But if I do, I'm puffing it and I'm immediately putting it down in the ashtray. So if it does fall off, it's going to fall off in the ashtray. I'm going to be courteous and mindful of as I pick it up and bring it to myself that it's not going to ash onto furniture or anything that would be permanently damaged by a hot ember. So making sure, it crosses the floor, and then as it gets to me, it's not going to drop an ash on the furniture or anything like that. Because let's be honest, you're at a cigar lounge and you have a 3-inch ash. That's pretty cool. You're going to generate some conversation. I mean, I think every time I've been in public and I've had a really long ash, everyone's always amazed, oh, wow, look at that. That's so cool. It's just something engaging about seeing someone that has a really long cigar ash. So I get it. And you should just be cautious if you are, and be mindful if you are going to make sure you're not tapping your ash as it starts to get overly long.
Yeah, definitely. I'm curious what your thoughts on this next one are, Pugh. It's number 5 on this list. Never take your own cigars to a cigar lounge.
I will say I disagree with this in its entirety. But there is a caveat.
I wasn't expecting that kind of vigor.
Fire.
Yeah.
There is a caveat. Is if you're going to bring your own cigars to a lounge, purchase something.
Yes.
Whether that be a cigar, a drink, butane, a light, whatever you need, leave with something if you're going to bring your own cigar. Because like I said, a lot of the places around me don't have a large boutique selection, which I enjoy. I also have, my humidor is regulated to what I like to smoke and the humidity that I like to smoke, where a large humidor is probably going to be a little moister than, just because the size and the amount of cigars. I've triggered a lot of people with that word.
Yeah. The ER on the end is something brand new I've never heard.
They have a lot of cigars. It's going to be a different environment. So I always have cigars with me, just like yourself. If I'm going to a brick and mortar, I'm going to have my own cigar. I'm going to smoke my own cigar, but I'm going to buy something. Even if I don't necessarily want to spend that markup on a cigar, then I'll buy a beer or two, or, if the lounge sells alcohol.
Yes.
But I'll buy something while I'm there. So I'm not going to just go in and take up space and smoke my own cigar. Now, another caveat to that is, if you know the owner and you're a frequent visitor, it's going to be a little different rules. So this is going to be more so for if you're entering a new lounge that you don't frequent often, you're traveling or new ones opening around you. Just be mindful that, you are potentially taking someone's, a spot in the lounge that may have to clean up afterwards. There's a lot of costs that go into owning a lounge. So, support a brick and mortar, buy a cigar that you either love or maybe one that you've been wanting to try, or a completely new brand. A lot of lounges have house blends that are pretty good and at a decent price. Just pick one up on the way in or the way out, and that way they know that you're, there to support them.
Yeah, I think it's also interesting. I agree with everything you said, and then you take it to another level where if you work in cigars and you have access to a lot of cigars, it's difficult to buy a cigar at a shop when you're like, I don't know, I got like 2,000 cigars at home that I actually really want to smoke or need to smoke for work, and it's like cold outside, so I can't smoke outside, or it's too hot. Yep. I want to come in here, but I have my own. How do I still support you? Because I'm not just going to use you for the air-conditioned cigar lounge so I can smoke my own stuff. And, before we got this office here, there was a spot downtown, OTR Cigars. Shout out to OTR Premium Cigars, where I walked in and they had a locker system. I'm like, oh, amazing. I'm like, hey, can I purchase a locker so that way I can use the space because I'm a locker member, even if I'm not buying cigars all the time. And that actually took some convincing, because I didn't realize when you own a locker at a cigar lounge, they want you to fill the locker with cigars from their lounge. It's like it's not a thing to fill it with your own stuff at all. I didn't know that. I thought that was the point of the locker. Did not know that.
So did I.
I'm like, hey, I'd like to get this locker. He's like, cool, you get 10% off of anything in the shop. Please only use those cigars in the locker. And I'm like, maybe I don't want the locker, because purpose of the locker for me is I'm going to fill it with my own stuff. Now, some of his reasoning went back to, I don't know how your cigars have been kept, where they've been, if you get beetles and infest all my locker people. Like,
it's true.
I don't want that to happen. So we talked about it. I'm like, hey, I'll put everything in Tupperware inside the locker. This is my reason why. Like, I work in cigars. I don't have an office I can smoke in. I don't smoke in my house. So I need something. So he's like,
or non-peak weather place to smoke.
Exactly. And I mean, they couldn't have been more awesome about it. Hey, no problem. You can put all the cigars you can fit in there that are yours. And as long as you pay to be a locker member and you keep them in the Tupperware, I got no problems. Awesome.
I know a lot of locker members also keep, at some places, like especially if they don't serve alcohol, will keep booze in their locker as well.
Definitely. And on top of that, it's something where I made it a point, whenever the owner was in the shop and I was there, I'd hand him a cigar. Hey, try this.
Absolutely.
We're working on a new blend. We just got these new samples in from this brand you don't carry. You should try them and consider carrying them. Always wanted to never just be the guy that was mooching. And how can I, if I'm not always going to be buying cigars from you, what are other ways I can support you? Yeah, I'm paying for a locker, but can I get you some cool cigars? Do you need any connections in this or that? Anyway, I think there's ways that it's very specific to your lounge, the way it's operated, your relationship with them, but just be mindful of it.
Yeah, I think that's the theme of this, is just be aware of your surroundings, especially at a new lounge. I would say at a new lounge, go in and definitely buy a cigar. If it's your local lounge that you visit frequently, you'll understand that relationship depending on the owner, whether that you can just, buy a cocktail or something like that. The lounge that I go to, if it's a non-event, I'll just, I'll buy a cocktail or 2 or 3 or 4. And then,
Or
he's
5 or
got some
6 or
good
7 or
sticks. Exactly. And then I always peruse the humidor, and I've left with a lot of great sticks that, I wouldn't have encountered before. And then going to events, even at events,
Sure.
I buy, like this Caldwell. I've got tons of Caldwells, but I wanted to support both the lounge. It's a great, I've met a lot of great reps that way as well. They love engaging with people. So if your lounge has any cigar events, they're the greatest thing.
Yes.
That got me started into cigars when I first started smoking more in 2016. It all started because of cigar events.
And I know a really cool cigar event coming to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, the Smokestack Lounge, November 7th, the first ever Cigar Club event. And you should be there. Or
You rolled that beautifully.
be square. Ugh, I hate this next one, Pew. I want to punch it in the face.
I don't get this one. So I'm going to let you explain it to me.
Okay, next one on this list says always cut and light your cigars properly. And the crickets came in. What the hell does that mean? What is properly to this person? Like, I got to use a straight cut. I can't use a V. You can't use a punch. You can't use your fingers. Does the light have to be a match? Cedar spill, butane, Zippo, torch, no torch, Bic, no Bic. Like, what does that mean?
I'm reading this one, and I just read the title of these when we saw this. It says, to properly light a cigar, you will need a lighter, odorless gas such as butane, matches, or cedar spill. Here it is. Never light a cigar with a candle.
I did not see that. Okay.
What?
So this is what we're talking about. We're talking a very base level. Don't walk over to the campfire and try and light it. Don't be Dave at his bachelor party and try and light it on a gas stove. Don't use a scented candle to light your cigar, as cigar might taste like scented candle.
I'm just picturing the lounge has some candles to, break up some of the atmosphere, and some guys picking up the candle and bringing it to his cigar.
Oh, that would be classic. You know somebody said that.
Oh, for sure.
Okay, I guess I'm okay with that, but it's also like I read it initially and think of the people that, you didn't light your cigar properly. It's like, well, it's lit and it's burning right, so to me it's lit properly.
Yeah, and I guess that maybe, I think I'll alter how they vision is, don't criticize someone else on how they light or cut their cigar preference. I've fallen into this when I first started smoking, kind of like as I learned proper ways, or maybe that's even being too much. When I learned different ways of lighting and cutting a cigar, I enjoy a good toast at the end of my foot of a cigar. And, maybe looking at someone who's just going full torch and flame, bringing it as close to their lighter as they can, I think originally I was like, maybe you would have pulled that back a little bit. Not that I would have said anything, but maybe it's just let people have their preference of how they like it. And if someone asks,
yes,
hey, do you know how to properly light a cigar? Do you know what's your technique? Then, so let someone ask you rather than just start giving them information that they may not want. I think that sets the conversation off wrong.
Totally agree. And since we've launched our TikTok, I've seen this numerous times because the trolls have come out, where if I don't do something up to everybody's standards, it's very incorrect. And I remember one guy was like, wrote me this paragraph about what a disservice I was doing to the industry and to the people because of how close I was getting to the blue light part of a torch lighter to my cigar when I lit it. And I just responded back and said, if you ever spend time in cigar factories, you're going to be really disappointed.
Because they don't care. Light it up, start smoking it.
Because when I tell you they don't care, and they're the ones making you this cigar, and guess what? It still tastes great. I'm not a proponent of somebody saying, how do I cut this, and telling them, just jam it up there and torch the thing. No. But exactly what you said, if somebody's not asking, and they're not like, why does my cigar keep doing this? Why is it always char this? To me, that's asking. You're like opening up to like, I'm clearly doing something wrong. Hey, you should probably pull the lighter back a little bit and do it a little slower, and you're not going to like destroy your cigar. But if somebody's like happily content, that's how they light their cigar, let them light their damn cigar. Yep. Let them bite off. It's just like, cut it how you want, V-cut. I had one guy make fun of me one time for using a V-cut. I'm like,
that's my favorite.
It's like, what do you mean? Who cares? It's cut, right? It's cut correctly. It's not hurting the cigar. And get over it.
Yeah,
anyway,
there's a
that's my
guy.
rant.
there's a guy at the lounge that I go to, who fully just chiefs, just straight up talking like 20 minutes tops. 20-minute tops on any cigar, from a Robusto to a Churchill to a Gordo, name it, right? But he enjoys it. Like, who
no
am
thanks
I?
for me, but if that's how he wants to do it.
Yeah, exactly. You know, who am I to say how for you to enjoy?
I didn't buy the cigar.
Exactly. So yeah, I think that's I get where they're coming out with it. I disagree with how they worded it in the article. But I think there is some validity to, you know, to that title.
Yeah. Definitely.
Now, Dave, I know you're going to completely disagree with this one. Don't be the I only smoke Cubans guy.
Wait, I'm
just kidding.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, don't be the I only smoke Cubans guy for sure. And let me disclaimer this. That's not because I think all Cubans are bad.
I love Cuban cigars.
I have had maybe 15 Cuban cigars in my life. 4 of them were phenomenal. 10 to 11 of them were terrible. They were all from reputable places where I know they weren't fakes, this, and that, whatever. The ones that are great are absolutely great. And the ones that are bad are really bad. And it's just that coin flip, in my opinion, from my experience with them, which is a limited outlook. It's a coin flip a lot of times on the quality and consistency of the Cuban cigar. So, for somebody to say, I only smoke Cuban cigars, that's fine if you like Cuban cigars, but don't act like you are better and you know more about cigars because that's all you smoke, because you are missing out on some amazing things.
Arguably,
you are missing out on a lot of flavor, a lot of transitionary cigars, a lot of unique characteristics that you will never taste in a Cuban cigar if you're only smoke. That's like if I only smoke Dominican cigars, I'm missing out on a lot because I don't smoke Cubans, I don't smoke Honduran cigars, I don't smoke Nicaraguan cigars. To only smoke one type of cigar is ludicrous to me. Ludicrous.
Yeah, exactly. The
Get
sample size of
where's Ludi?
Hey, Ludicrous smokes cigars. To say you only smoke Cubans, you're really missing out on a lot of different nuances and flavors and profiles that you just can't get with Cuban-only tobacco.
Correct.
It's like saying one region, I only drink Bordeaux. That's great.
Stop
but
everything,
that doesn't mean...
Q. Fresh delivery.
Uh-oh. Oh, don't spill it.
Yeah. Ryan Geist Cheetah. A great Cincinnati lager. Anyway, continue.
We back to non-alcoholics?
Nope, this would be alcohol.
All right. To say you only drink wine from the region of Bordeaux doesn't mean that everywhere else doesn't produce great quality wine.
Correct.
And so you're really limiting yourself. And hey, if you only smoke Cubans and you only like Cuban cigars, nothing wrong with that. But I would implore you to branch out a little bit. Try. You know, if you smoked a Nicaraguan cigar 10 years ago, it's going to be drastically different from what Nicaraguan cigars are producing now and profiles now. So every once in a while, branch out. Try something from the Dominican Republic or Honduras or Nicaragua, because, you know, time changes everything, and you may find your palates change or the regions changed. And there's a lot of really good non-Cuban cigars out there.
It's like there's 2 different ways to say that question or that statement. It's like I only smoke Cuban cigars because I'm big swinging dick. And then there's like I only smoke Cuban cigars because I've tried everything and I only like those. Okay, fine. You're allowed to do that, of course. But if you're only doing it as like a status thing or because you think it's cool that you only smoke Cubans, I mean, maybe somebody thinks you're cool for that. But it's just like saying you only smoke Dominicans. Okay, that's all you like, then sure. But if that's supposed to be a flex, then I'm not impressed.
You're not flexing on me in a lounge. Not at all. He pulls out a glass top sampler that he got on the beach of Costa Rica or something like that. It's just a bunch of fake Cuban cigars, and he's flexing that if they're all, you know, all real. I did want to add. So go ahead.
No, please.
I was going to say that was the 7 that they had. I think we had a real good theme here, and I wrote down something that wasn't included that I wanted to say, and I think we've actually pretty much covered it. My final thoughts around that article is ultimately just be mindful, be courteous of others around you. You know, it's more than just you in that lounge. And then the big one that I have that kind of ties into a few of these is just as you get up and you leave your lounge, make sure you leave it cleaner than when you first sat down and arrived.
Yep.
I've seen some very, very messy people leave a lounge, and then some poor, bartender or, someone, the only person running the lounge at that time, whoever it may be, has to come over and clean up after them. And I mean, there's been times that someone's left that I've cleaned up after them because it's no one else's responsibility. And,
right.
Local lounge, I'm friends with, I don't want anyone else to have to come over and clean up after someone else. Quick brush in the ashtray. I'm not going to go and get some Windex out and start wiping down everything.
Right.
Just if you sit down and you notice that as you get up, there's a little bit of ashes somewhere, just wipe them up real quick. Throw them in the ashtray, go wash your hands in the bathroom, and then, you've done your part to helping out that brick and mortar store so they can focus on helping other people with more important things than cleaning up someone's ashes.
It's important to remember that you don't have to remember these 7 rules of etiquette. You just have to remember that you should be mindful. And if you're mindful, does that lead you to having the longest ash and dropping it everywhere? If you're mindful, does it leave you to do X, Y, or Z that we've covered today? And I think that's exactly what you said. That's the number one thing that just makes you an enjoyable cigar smoker to be around, period.
Absolutely. And it's going to make, if it's a local brick and mortar that you're just now entering for the first time, you'll be noticed. I mean, cigar shop owners are certainly having people that they know as they walk in, they're going, oh, Jesus, he's here. She's here.
Yeah. He just parks
or that group of people,
he's going to
whoever.
park at that seat. This isn't on the list, but I feel the same way about coffee shops. That person that rolls in, buys a drip coffee for $2.50 and is there for 8 hours working, using the Wi-Fi and taking up a table.
Yep.
That's the same for a cigar lounge, where if you're going to go in, you're going to buy the cheapest cigar there or bring your own. You're going to sit there open to close, taking up a seat or a table or a couch. And what are you adding to that place?
Exactly.
You're not making them more money. You're not building people that want to see you there all the time. It's just just be mindful,
Yep. And to me, the best part about a lounge, and I think to circle back to the original topic of demystifying lounges or helping people get over maybe some anxiety or fears about entering a lounge, whether that be, they're traveling or one to them that they haven't visited yet. To me, the best part of a lounge is the ability to sit down, and if someone across from you is by themselves, or even if it's a group of people, depending on the situation, you both have something in common. No matter where you came from, no matter whatever, we're all different. So to have something such easily in common is, hey, if they're sitting there and you can tell they maybe want to chat, obviously don't invade someone else's space if you can clearly tell that they're there to relax and kind of have their own moment.
Right.
But if you see that someone's totally open to talk, hey, what are you smoking? Or what do you like to smoke? Cool. You have a kicking off point now to instantly break the ice. It's not a weird break the ice moment where it's like, oh, your shoes look nice. No. But hey, what do you like to smoke? Or, have you smoked this cigar before? I always have extras of what I'm smoking. So I've given away tons of cigars to random people.
That's awesome.
Like, hey, have you smoked this before? Try it. I do it with lounge owners too. I've given a bunch of cigars to, even before I started in this working here, I would give away my personal cigars to my lounge owner. Be like, I really like this Sereno cigar. You don't carry it. Smoke it. Tell me what you think. I would love to see them in here. Then I can now buy from my local brick and mortar. But it's a great conversation. The best part of lounges is the conversation that you have with strangers, getting to meet new people, having an easy conversation piece that then spawns into wherever else. I read another article that was like, don't talk about politics or religion, which I agree. I'm not going to bring that up with a random stranger. But at my lounge, those topics are certainly on point from people that are that know each other. If you have like a group of 5 people, usually, especially if they're regulars, they're probably going to talk about current events. And sometimes you get looped into that. And if you want to, if you enjoy having those conversations, you can easily join in. I tend to say don't bring those up if you're just sitting across from someone and you're like, so how about politics?
Right off the bat,
sports?
What do we think about the president?
Sports, fair games, especially if they're on TV. I love going to my lounge, especially during
Nothing
playoffs
like that for a
football
football game.
or basketball.
Nothing like it.
Oh, absolutely. For me, there's no sports teams and professional sports teams in Alabama. We do have college, which I will certainly go to an event or lounge and talk shit.
Yep.
Especially if it's the playoffs or something, get rowdy, whatever. But yeah, that's the best part about a lounge is being able to talk to like-minded individuals, at least sharing a cigar.
No, I fully agree. And I think what this article was getting at is enhancing that experience so that people don't think you're, I don't know, a prick.
You want to be fun to be around.
Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of people have that hesitation of going into Cigar Lounge because they've been in them before, and it's a, guys only, 70 plus, you're in or you're out. Get your cigar and leave. The seats are here for us, who are the regulars, who are probably only buying a cigar a day and sitting there all day anyway. Demystifying that and making people a little more comfortable with there's nothing you're doing wrong as long as you're not licking your cigar.
and then using
the communal. If you
communal.
don't lick your cigar and use the community thing or put it back, you're already probably 80% of the way there. And you can go have a great time. Sit down confidently knowing that you and the people around you, no one there is probably an expert on cigars anyway. So you should just light it and enjoy it. And if you like that cigar, awesome. If you don't, there's
own your space in that.
There's 1,000 more in the humidor behind you that you can try. And that's what it's about, is exploring cigars through its tastes, the countries it takes you to, and primarily the people that you enjoy the cigar around. So
absolutely. Well said.
That's my piece on cigar lounges. That's Pugh's piece on cigar lounges. We love cigar lounges. And I think a lot of times we get a weird rep being an online-only company, being a subscription. We're seen as sometimes competition or that next wave of retail. And every time I go into a cigar lounge and I tell them what I do, I find myself having to preface, I'm not here to take your customers.
Hell, we're here to drive.
I love what you do, and I think that cigar lounges are becoming fewer and far between, especially here in Cincinnati. There's almost none. Mm-hmm. Excuse me. The beer's coming up. Or I'm just getting emotional about cigar lounges.
One of the two.
One of the two. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll know, because I'm crying or I'm not crying. But I'm always like, no, like the cigar community is a special place. It's a small group of people, and we're fostering a community online. You guys listening are part of that. But fostering a community in your local brick and mortar shop is equally as important. And that's why we don't ship you 30 cigars a month. Because for all our guys out there and girls out there that smoke a cigar every day or multiple cigars a day, that's not what we do. We are here to give you our favorite selections that month that match up with your palate, what you like to smoke, introduce you to new brands that hopefully you smoke that Sereno or you smoke that HVC, and you walk into your cigar lounge and say, hey, I've never seen this brand here. I got it in this box. I smoked it. It's amazing. How do we get this here? Yep. That is a massive win to our team, period. And
absolutely.
Cigar shops and lounges, I hope they always prosper, and they're always somewhere, because just like you, Pugh, when I go to a new city, whether it's for work or for pleasure, where's the closest cigar lounge? Because I want to spend at least one night there, because the characters you meet, cigars you'll smoke, it is classic, and it's such a good time, and it's something I will always enjoy doing.
I couldn't have said that any better myself. Gee, well,
this episode goes out to all you brick and mortar people, and big shout out to Smokestack Cigars, Pittsburgh, PA. All right.
That was good. I like that.
It was a great episode. I had a blast.
It was.
Thank you guys, as always, for supporting the podcast, for listening, for liking this video, for leaving a comment. And if you haven't, go do it now. And for downloading these podcasts on Apple Music, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. And, of course, if you're watching the video on YouTube, make sure you give it a thumbs up. We're here every Tuesday until the end of Season 1. It's winding down. I think there's going to be a 3-week hiatus, and then we're coming back badder than ever, moister than ever.
Oh, man. A couple people are real mad that we said it twice.
But, no, as always, it's a pleasure. Pugh, good to have you back in the saddle.
Absolutely.
And looking forward. I think we got a couple brand interviews potentially coming up. Been talking with the Bocock brothers. We had a podcast with them shot. Things got messed up in It happened in Vegas. It didn't all go according to plan, so we're going to get them back
in Vegas,
on.
Apparently.
And we'll have Pugh back on with us so we can have double the questions coming at him. But we got some brand interviews coming up for you guys. And, of course, a behind-the-scenes look at the cigar industry and what we do here at CigarClub.com. Thank you all for listening. As always, I'm Dave with CigarClub.com. The man on the other side, David Pugh. The Palate Prince.
Palate Prince. Thanks for joining us. Another good one.